What's up, guys? Welcome to the MLG Winter Arena StarCraft 2 Bracket Show. I'm Chris Puckett, joined by our StarCraft 2 experts, MLG's own JP McDaniel, and joining us via Skype, we have Blizzard's esports manager, Rob Simpson. Rob, how you doing?
Doing real good, Chris. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to take a look at these brackets.
So are we, my friend, and Rob is going to be one of our 6 casters on our main and secondary streams at the arena. Super pumped to have you joining us, Rob. But today, we're talking about brackets. Now, we already know where our top 8 from Providence will be placed as we take a look at the brackets. You'll see that Lenok, our Providence champion, will be our #1 seed at the top of the bracket. In our top half, at the very bottom, you'll have MVP coming in with the 4 seed, Huck comes in with the 5th seed, and Idra will be in that first quadrant with the 8th seed. And the bottom half of the bracket, we'll be leading off with Dongray Gu coming in at our 3rd seed. The Providence runner-up Naniwal will be holding down the bottom of the bracket, with Hapro coming in 7th and MC with our 6th seed. So there we go. That is our Providence top 8. But guys, now it's time for the fun part. We're going to be filling in the other 24 players that qualified online for this arena event.
And it's going to be a lot of fun here, Chris. I do want to mention that top half of the bracket is going to be the one that everyone's focusing on, because we have players like Lenok, the winner from Providence. We got MVP in there. We got Idra. Those are all the star player favorites there in the top half. The bottom half, still a lot of fun, but we'll have to see who gets put in there from the qualified players.
And there you see the qualified players list. And guys, it is time to start filling it in. And in the very first matchup, Lenok will be facing off against our 32nd seed. Now, the players that could possibly earn that 32nd seed finished 7th in their online qualifier. And as we go back to the player list, you'll see our options are Grubby, Gonzi, DDE, Mers, San, or Minigun.
And this is going to be interesting. If he gets anyone from Europe or North America, I think he's going to be able to take him. Gonzi and San, though, that's going to be a tough match, Chris.
All right, well, as we fill in the bracket, it looks like our 32nd seed will be DDE. So we will be seeing a ZVT in our first matchup. Guys, does DDE stand a chance against Lenok?
Straight up, no. He will lose that match, Chris. I am sorry, DDE, but you do not have what it takes to be able to take out the Providence champion in Lenok.
Rob, do you agree with JP here?
It's really unfortunate that DDE happened to get seeded right against Lenok. I do think that Lenok is going to be able to take this 2-0.
All right, so
bad luck for DDE.
Both of our experts agree. Lenok is moving on to round 2. But guys, let's look at our next matchup here. We're going to have a 17th seed take on a 16th seed. And interesting enough, we'll have 2 of those players are both coming from the 3rd placement in their online qualifiers. So we'll be able to fill in both players at once. And here is our options. We'll have either Thorzane, Lucira, and Chef in those 2 spots.
And that means it is going to be an incredible match regardless of who is playing here, Chris. It's going to be a TVZ or a ZVZ, and I don't really know who's going to win if any of those players meet up.
All right, well, as we announce the bracket here, it looks like Thorzane will get that 17 seed, and Chef is in our top 16. We'll be seeing the TVZ. Guys, this could go either way.
It really, really could. I'm going to say that Thorzane's going to be able to take it out, but it's going to be close. It's going to be 2-1. Chef is barely going to lose that, but TVZ is Thorzane's strong point. I think he's going to take it.
Rob?
Just like you said, I think it's definitely going to be a close match, but I've got Chef winning this one. His ZBT is pretty monstrous, and I just think that Thorzane is going to fall a little short when it matters.
All right, so differing opinions here. Let's keep it going as we set up our 3rd matchup. Our 9th seed will be taking on 24, and guys, coming in our 9th seed will be one of the players that won their online regional qualifier. Our options here are Violet, who won the European qualifier, Nesty, or Drewby, who is really the surprise player winning North America's qualifier.
Absolutely here, Chris. The player that everyone wants to see where he's going to end up in this bracket is, of course, Ness T. And if it is him right here, whoever he's going up against is going to have a tough time. And that means that this top half of the winner's bracket is going to be stacked.
All right, so as we reveal number 9, it looks like Ness T is going to finish in our first quadrant. That means we have Lenok, Ness T, Idra, Chef, 4 Zergs already in the top half. That is just going to be incredible to watch there. And what does this mean? Round 2.
So round 2, if Idra and Ness T both win, they will be facing each other in only round 2, Chris, of this tournament. That is how stacked the Winter Arena is.
All right, well, let's see who Ness T will be facing off against. It'll be a player who finished 5th in their regional qualifier. Taking a look at the player list, we have Sake, Oz, Oxlav, Show, STC, and DeMuslim, who is replacing Artist for this event.
So Nesty should be able to take out any of these players. He's going to have a harder time with Oz and STC, but the rest of the players, basically chump change for Nesty.
All right, well, our 24th seed will be DeMuslim. Oh, DeMuslim's luck. He gets last chance qualifier. He wins it against 4 other players to advance to the arena, replacing Artist. And in the very first round, guys, he has to go up against Nesty. JP, Rob, does DeMuslim have a chance here? This is terrible luck drawing Nesty in the very first round.
He has a chance, but it's very, very, very small. I think it could possibly be a 2-1, but I think Nesty's going to be able to take it. Rob, what are your thoughts?
Now, I have seen the Devil Terran in person recently. We saw him play against Violet just not too long ago in the IEM Sao Paulo qualifiers, and I really think that DeMuslim can totally pull this out. Now, it is just his luck to happen to have to fight Nesty in round 1, but I think he can do it. I've got DeMuslim winning at 2-1.
Really?
Okay.
Wow.
Okay,
Rob, I like the ballsy moves here. He's calling Chef to win, and then he's also having DeMuslim move on. So I guess that is going to bring us to our very last matchup in our very first quadrant. Who is going to be facing off against Idra? It'll be our 25th seed, also a player who finished 5th in their online qualifier. Sock, Show, STC, Oz, and Axlab are our 5 players remaining.
So, Chris, it's no secret Idra has been over in Seoul, South Korea training for a very, very long time here in the tournament offseason. He's going to be able to take out most of those players except the 2 Koreans. We'll see, though, who he gets here.
All right, as we fill in our bracket, man. It looks like he draws Oz. We will be seeing a PVZ. And, guys, Oz is my favorite Protoss to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if Idra's going to be able to take that. I actually think Oz will take it, and it might even be a 2-0, Chris.
Rob, who do you have?
So I've got to agree here. I think that Oz is going to take it. I have Idra taking a game off of him, but Oz has been an absolute monster. We saw him play against Nesty in the Korean qualifier as well, and he was even able to take a game off Nesty, so I think he's going to be able to take down Idra.
Now, Chris, if my bracket predictions are correct, that means that DeMuslim and Idra will face off in losers round 1 of the tournament, meaning EG's going to have a team kill very early on. Oh. If Rob's right, well, DeMuslim's not going to beat Nesty, so Rob, I'm sorry, you're not right.
Oh, man.
Come on, man, have some faith, JP. What are you doing?
I don't got any faith, man. I'm sorry, Ben. I love you. You're a nice guy. We'll go out drinking later, but you're not beating Nesty. That's just how it is.
All right.
He's going to do it, man. He's going to do it.
Well, that is going to do it for our first quadrant. We have 3 remaining. We're going to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll take a look at who will be facing off against Huck in round number 1. Welcome back. It's MLG's Winter Arena StarCraft 2 bracket show. Chris Puckett joined by JP and Rob Simpson. Guys, we just announced the first quadrant. Now it is time to take a look at our second quadrant in the top half of our bracket. You see Idra is facing off against Oz in round 1, but now it's time to see who Huck will be playing in his matchup. It'll be a 28th seed, which will be one of the players who finished 7th in their online qualifiers. That is Grubby, Gonzi, Mers, San, or Minigun.
And once again, Chris, if he takes the European or the North American here, should be a win for Huck. If he gets one of the Koreans, he's going to have a tough time.
All right, well, coming in at the 28th seed will be Minigun. So we will be seeing a PvP there to start off the tournament for Huck. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
So we saw Minigun play against Tyler in the North American qualifier, and he was very, very, very passive, even using buildings to block off the attacks there, forcing his opponent to really fall back. I think that Huck has enough experience in PvP to be able to take out Minigun, but I think it's going to be a 2-1.
All right, well, there's JP's picks, but what about you, Rob?
So Huck's got crazy PvP experience. Just like you said, I think that Chad Jones has been a super powerful player in the community recently, but I do think that Huck is going to be able to take it 2-0.
All right, so both players, or both of you guys having Huck move on. Let's take a look at our next matchup. This will be between our 21st seed and a 12th seed. The 12th seed will be finishing 2nd, but let's take a look at our first one here. It looks like we'll have another 5th seed here. Sake, Show, STC, and Axlab are the players remaining for this position.
And this could be the potential for a very, very exciting match, Chris. I do not want to do this anymore. Who's it going to be, Chris?
All right, it looks like it officially will be Sake.
All right, well, the European Protoss user himself, very, very good at most matchups. PvP probably being one of his best. We'll see who he draws from the other portion of this tournament.
All right, let's find out who our 12th seed will be. It'll be a player who finished second in their regional qualifiers. Our runners-up are Rhett, Parting, and Doro.
Now, if he gets Doro here, we'll see. If he gets Rhett or Parting, that's going to be a tough match.
All right, well, let's see who Sak will draw in our first round, and it will be Doro.
Okay, now, we saw Doro actually play in the North American qualifier, and he was very, very cheesy. So because of that, I actually think he's going to beat Zaka here.
Really?
I'm calling it. 2-0, actually.
Cheese again?
He's good at cheese, yeah, and a lot of people hate him for it. He is the member of Team Vile, and we'll see if he can actually do it, but we saw him do it in the North American qualifier, and he gained a lot of enemies out there. So we'll see what happens.
All right, so JP's calling for the Canadian PvP in round 2, but what do you have, Rob?
I think that if Zaka can get Doro to play straight-up games, like get beyond a place where cheese is going to be a factor, that Zaka can take this.
Absolutely.
So I've got him winning 2-1 over Doro, so Zaka will advance.
Yeah,
all right.
Really, the person that's going to drive that match will be Doro. It depends all on what he's going to do in those matches. And I agree with Rob, actually. If it goes past the cheese game, Zaka wins. If he cheeses, Doro wins.
Okay. Well, let's move on, guys. Back to the bracket here as we go down to our second to last match in the top half. 13th seed will be facing off against our 20th seed, and let's figure out who that 13th seed will be first. It is going to be, once again, a runner-up, a player who finished second in the regional qualifier, and that will be either Rhett or Parting.
Rhett, of course, the European mainstay, the macro Zerg himself. Parting, kind of the new and up-and-coming player over in Seoul, South Korea there over at the GSL. Whoever plays here, we're going to have a lot of eyes on this match.
All right, and it looks like as we go back to the bracket, that 13th seed will go to Liquid's Rhett.
Another Zerg here in the top half of the bracket. That is probably the best Zergs right now filling out the top portion of this bracket.
All right, so let's figure out who Rhett will be playing. Looks like we will have our 20th seed be a player who finished 4th at the regional qualifier. That'll be either Pami, Marine King, or Sase. Guys, no matter who gets chosen here, we will be seeing an epic matchup in round 1. All right, so here we go. We got Rhett facing off
and
against...
it's going to be Sase.
Rob, what's your thought on this matchup between Rhett and Sase?
I've got the King of Drones pulling ahead here 2-0. I think that Rhett, we saw just how strong his play can be outside of just droning, most recently at Sao Paulo. So I really think that recent play and that recent experience is going to put him just far enough ahead and give him the edge in this match to beat out Sase 2-0.
Definitely a matchup that all of our European fans will be looking out for. A big battle between two of Europe's biggest names. Can't wait to see that one. But guys, let's go to our final match here in the top half of the bracket. Who has to go up against MVP in the very first round? It will be a player who tied for 7th in their regional qualifiers. That's either going to be Grubby, Mers, Gonzi, or San, as both of our North American players have already been placed in the bracket.
So in my opinion, the only player that could give MVP really a run for his money here is going to be San, and that is only if he is playing extremely, extremely well. MVP is my pick just to win the entire tournament. I'm going to say that right now. Whoever he goes up against here, though, it's going to have to be San if he wants a challenge.
All right, and the answer is it will be
San. So he's going to have a little bit of a tough road starting out. Definitely a little more than he would have if he was playing some of those other players. He should be able to take him out, though. I'm going to say 2-1. I'm going to give San a little bit of the benefit of the doubt.
Do you think the Korean Protoss can take games from MVP here?
I think that there's a chance of that, but my prediction was that MVP is going to end up taking this 2-0. I do agree with JP in that I think that San was probably the strongest opponent for MVP to have to fight in this match, but I still think he's going to be able to shut out San for the first games.
All right, well, that does it for our top half of the bracket. And, guys, I know you went ahead and filled out your bracket ahead of time. Let's take a look at JP's bracket here first. Looks like in our first round, both of you guys had Lenok moving on. Then you have differing opinions between Thorzane and Chef. JP, you picked Thorzane here, but walk us through the rest of your matchups.
Yes, so I think that Nesty will make it all the way to round 4, and MVP is going to make it all the way to round 4. The controversial picks here obviously is going to be Doro beating Huck. I just really feel like Doro can cheese out some people in PvP. That's definitely my riskiest pick. MVP beating Rhett, not the biggest surprise. MVP beating Doro, not the biggest surprise. MVP against Nestea in round 4, the match that everyone wants to see. And I want to see it, Chris, in round 4.
I would love to see Nestea battle against MVP. Definitely an epic matchup in the making there. But, Rob, let's take a look at your bracket as we pull that up. Walk us through here. You have Chef taking down Thorzane at the top, and then you got DeMuslim against Oz there in our second match.
So I think that even though DeMuslim's going to play really great against Nestea, even if he's able to get ahead of that match, I think that Oz is going to be able to knock him down into the lower bracket, which means that that next match up there in the upper quadrant, I think, is going to end up being Oz versus Leenock, and I think that Oz has been a total monster. We saw him play against Nestea in those Korean regionals, like I mentioned, and I think that he's going to be able to pull that one out. So down in the second half of the upper bracket, after Huck beats Minigun, he's going to have to play against Sake, and I think he'll be able to take that down as well. But because MVP will have to 2-1 Rhett in round 2, that means that Huck is going to be in a really rough spot against MVP, and ultimately I think that MVP is going to pull ahead there too, and I think that MVP is also going to be able to take out Oz in round 3.
So Rob has Nestea going to the loser's bracket after round 1, and an Oz versus MVP matchup there at the top half of our bracket.
Rob, I was with you there starting at the end of the bracket, working its way back, and then I remembered that you said Nestea is going to lose to DeMuslim.
It's going to happen.
I can't be your friend anymore, Rob. I'm sorry. Nestea wouldn't like it. He would just snap his fingers, and I would just turn into a magical ball of fire or something like that.
All right.
We might as well all be singing Kumbaya, man.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it for the top half of our bracket. When we come back, we have 8 more matchups, starting with Dongray Gu's opponent. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Winter Arena StarCraft 2 Bracket Show. I'm Chris Puckett, joined by JP and Rob Simpson. And guys, we just revealed the top half of the bracket. Now it's time to get into the matches in the bottom half of our arena bracket. So here we go. Starting at the very top, we have our 3rd seeded player that will be arguably the best Zerg in the world. Dongray Gu will be matching up against the 30th seed. Now, of course, the 30th seed will be one of the players that tied for 7th in their qualifier, and our 3 players left are Grubby, Mers, or Gonzi.
I don't see anyone posing a threat there out of those 3 players to DRG. He's been absolutely on fire as of late. All over the world, regardless of what tournament it is, he is just winning constantly. And out of Grubby, Mers, and Gonzi, I think he takes them all 2-0.
All right, well, let's find out who his first round opponent will be. It is Gonzi. JP, we are already moving DRG over for you, but Rob, what do you think is going to happen in this matchup?
Yeah, I think that out of those available opponents, I think that Gonzi is probably the one that can give him the most trouble, but I think that DRG's TVZ is still too sick, so he's going to be able to win this 2-1, and Dongray Gu will advance.
Yeah, right. I still say 2-0. His TVZ is the best in the world, bar none.
All right, well, let's find out what our next matchup will be. Both players will be fighting for a spot against DRG in round 2, but it will be our 19th seed against 14th seed. And let's start off with our 19th seed. This will be a player that finished 4th in their qualifier. Our 2 options here are Pommy or Marine King.
Marine King, definitely the bigger known player there. Pommy, the up-and-coming player from Europe. Chris, who is it going to be?
It looks like our first player is Pommy, and he will be going up against the 14th seed. This will be a player that finished 2nd in their regional qualifier. So,
well, Chris, who's it going to be?
Well, I have a feeling we're going to see Parting play against Pommy here. What do you think, guys?
I think you might be correct, and that is going to be a hard match for Pommy. I see Parting moving on 2-0.
Do you think that Pommy could take a game from Parting here, Rob?
It could potentially happen, but I completely agree with JP on his prediction. I think that Parting is going to take this 2-0.
All right, so no argument so far. Both of you guys calling for a DRG Parting matchup in round 2.
Oh, Chris, I want to see that match now.
This bracket
let's go.
Is so disgusting. Guys, let's keep this moving here. As we go down to the next matchup, we will be filling in our 11th seed. This, of course, will be one of our players that won the regional qualifiers, and it's either going to be Violet, who won Europe, or Drewby, who took North America.
I want to see Drewby play someone really, really top tier. I'm hoping it's Drewby being put in, and we'll see who he gets put up against.
All right, so it looks like at that 11th spot, it is going to be...
Called it.
Yes. JP, who had the brackets early, called it once again, guys. Drewby will get that 11th seed, but who is he facing off against? That is the real question. It'll be a player who finished 5th in their online regional qualifiers. And as we take a look at that player list, it will be either Show, STC, or Axlab.
If he gets Show, I think he wins. If he gets Axlov, I still think he wins. If he gets STC, it's going to be a hard fight.
Okay, as we get to the matchup, Drewby will be facing off against STC. So you asked for a challenge. I think Drewby has it here in round number 1.
He got it, and I don't. This is a tough call, Chris. Rob, you go ahead and go first.
I don't know if challenge is going to be the right word for this. It's going to be extremely difficult for Drewby to get out of this match. I have the STC taking this 2-0 over Drewby. It was a really rough draw for Drewby.
All right.
Is it a sweep for you as well?
I'm going to actually say Drewby's going to take it. He got first in the North American qualifier. He's on a rise. I don't know what's going on with him, but his TVT was definitely something that was highlighted in the North American bracket. I think he takes it.
Over the STC. All right. JP calling the underdog there. Let's keep moving on. We have our 27th seed facing off against our 6th seed. And it's time to find out who our 27th seed will be. It's one of the 7th place finishers, either Grubby or Mers here from our European qualifier.
All right. Here's the real deal, Chris. If he gets Grubby, we have a match. If he gets Mers will just probably leave, and we will see the same game if he leaves with 6 SCVs or whether it's 10 minutes later in the match.
All right. Well, it looks like the player who will be facing MC is Mers.
Congratulations to MC for taking Game 1 and Game 2 here in the round 1 of the MLG Winter Arena. Mers will not win that match. I am completely sorry. It's his worst matchup. He hates it. We saw him do it in the tournament for the qualifiers. He's not winning.
Wow. Rob, is he going to get stomped out?
Mers is going to put up a fight, but MC is a complete monster as per usual. So I'm going to have to agree with JP. I see a 2-0 happening here.
All right. So, guys, that is going to do it for our 3rd quadrant. We have one more to fill in. We're going to commercial break. When we come back, we'll find out who'll be playing Hey Pro in round number 1. What's up, guys? Welcome back to MLG's Winter Arena StarCraft 2 Bracket Show. Chris Puckett, JP, and Rob Simpson breaking down all the action. So far, we've announced our first 3 quadrants, and we're left with our final quadrant here. Starting off at the very top, we have 7-seeded Hey Pro going up against our 26 seed.
Good old Banjo.
All right, well, taking a look at the players list, it's going to be a 5th-seeded player from the regional qualifiers, so either Show or Axlab here, guys. What do you think about this matchup? Either way, I think it could be a pretty good match. Either of these players could take on Hey Pro.
It's going to be competitive regardless, so let's go ahead and see who it is there, and it is Show. Okay, so we're going to have a European fight here going off between Hey Pro and Show. Rob, who takes it?
Hey Pro had a really great finish to his year last year. We saw him finish top 8 back in Providence, but I think that Show is going to be able to take this one 2-1 and move ahead into round 2.
JP, what do you think about this? Do you also have Show moving on here?
I'm gonna say Hey Pro moves on here. He did so well at Providence, really impressed me. Took out Nest T, almost took out MVP. It was a nail-biter match there in Providence. I think he moves on. It's going to be a close match, but I'm sorry, Show, you just do not scout enough to this day. Keep working on scouting.
All right. Well,
it's going to come down to what Hey Pro's been doing with his off-season.
Yeah, that's very good.
All right, so split decisions here amongst you two, but let's move on to our next match, 23 versus 10. And as we take a look at the player list, you'll see that the only 5th-seeded player left is Axlab. So I think it's safe to say he's probably going to get this top spot. So let's go ahead and fill him into the bracket. But then we have to look at who will be our 10th seed here. It's going to be a player that won their regional qualifier. And once again, not a whole lot of names left. I think he's going to be matching up against Violet in this one, guys. What do you think? What's going to happen? Axlab versus Violet in round 1.
That's tough for Axlab. That is really, really tough. Violet has just been playing extremely, extremely well. And Rob, you actually saw him down there at Sao Paulo last week. I think he takes that. I think it's going to be a 2-0. What are your thoughts, Rob?
I completely agree. Oh, actually, I guess I disagree just a little bit. I think Violet is going to actually lose a game to Axlab. I have him winning 2-1 in the series. I think that Violet's ZVP is probably the one that he might struggle with the most. We saw just how crazy he was back in Sao Paulo. but he is going to advance 2-1, defeating Axlev in round 1.
All right. I think that's a safe bet there, guys. We have just 2 more matches left in the bracket, and this one I am so excited for. Number 15 taking on number 18. That means a 3rd seed versus a 4th seed, and I think the answer is right there for you. Losira and Marine King. Guys, we saw this twice for the Korean qualifier. Losira bested Marine King both times, but do you think it'll happen a 3rd time here at the arena event?
It's going to be close, Chris. It's going to be extremely close between these 2 players. I really feel like Losira is going to win again, though. He already did it twice in the Korean bracket. I love Marine King, but I just think that Losira is a better player right now.
Rob, what do you got? You got a Z or a T coming out on top here?
I got a Z coming out here. I think that Losira really has Marine King's number going into this. We saw just how strong he's played against him previously, and I don't think that anything's going to change on LAN.
All right, so both of you guys going with Losira. Let's take a look at the final matchup. Who will be facing Naniwa, our Providence runner-up? We have 1 player left on that qualifier list. Grubby will be the last StarCraft player picked for Dodgeball. What's going to happen in this PvP?
Naniwa is going to win, but it might be a 2-1. Grubby, of course, is still that rising star that everyone knows him to be, but I do not think he has enough to pull the upset win over Naniwa. Naniwa takes it 2-1.
Wow. You agree?
Grubby's going to be taking at least a game in this series. I think that there's a good shot that maybe he could take it, but, I mean, Naniwa is still just as sick as ever, so Naniwa is going to be advancing.
Yep. The big thing there, Chris, you know, if Naniwa loses to Grubby in the opening round of this tournament, that really sets his entire tournament for him. And if that happens, I think Naniwa would probably lose in the 1st round. He just does not deal that well with losses.
This whole time, right? Like, if you lose a single game, you're not going to have an easier time in the lower bracket.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so both of you guys calling for Naniwa there, but you both said that Grubby will take a game from him, so very interesting stuff. We'll see if he can make that happen in the very first game of the tournament. Like you said, that would be a huge momentum win there for Grubby.
Yep.
But guys, that does it for all 4 quadrants. But before the show's over, we got to get your predictions there in the bottom half of the bracket. JP, we're starting with your bracket. Walk us through.
Sure. So in round 2, of course, DRG going up against Parting. I have DRG taking that. Drewby moving on, beating STC, of course. Mers, just take the loss. Just go to the bottom of that lower bracket because you're not going to beat MC. Drewby, you aren't either. He's going to move on and will go up against DRG. And even though I have MC winning here, that match is impossible to call. DRG MC might as well be the finals of any tournament out there, much like Nesty MVP. I do not know who takes it. I have MC on paper, but DRG could take that as well. It's going to be a nail-biter. Bottom half of the bracket, I do think Losira will fall to Violet. Violet will meet whoever it is, DRG or MC, in round 4 of the bottom half of the bracket.
Wow, Violet going all the way to match up against MC or DRG for JP, but let's take a look at Rob's bracket here. Rob, I know that you guys disagreed a lot on the top half of the bracket, but walk us through your bottom half.
So both JP and I agreed moving into round 2. We both think that Dong Ragu and Parting are going to make it through there, but I've got Parting beating DRG 2-1, so that he'll actually be the one advancing into round 3. Now, right below that, I threw out the guess that maybe STC could defeat Drewby in this TVT, which means that STC is going to have to play against MC directly in round 2. Now, I agree that MC is a total powerhouse, so he's probably going to defeat STC 2-1, meaning that up in round 3, we're going to end up having Parting and MC there. I think that MC is going to pull out ahead in a 2-1. So down in the lower half of the second half of the bracket, I have Show and Violet both advancing from their first games, and I think that Violet's ZVT is going to be able to shut him out. We saw him just how powerful he was against Supernova last week in Sao Paulo. So that means that Violet's going to be advancing 2-1 there, and I've got Naniwa defeating Losira 2-1 as well, which means that Naniwa versus Violet in round 3. I think that Naniwa, if he comes out with that momentum, if he comes out defeating Losira, is going to have what it takes to take down Violet, giving us a PvP in round 4 between MC and Naniwa. But I think that MC is just going to be a little too much for Naniwa to handle, putting him as the lower bracket winner.
All right, so there you have it. Both of you guys predicting your lower half and your top half. But final question of the night, who will we be seeing in the winners bracket finals, and who will secure the first spot in our championship match?
Tough question. I believe I have MVP and Nestea in the top half of the bracket. MVP takes that just like he did at, I believe, BlizzCon. And in the bottom half, I guess I'll go with what I have on paper. MC's going to beat DRG moving on. He's going to beat his opponent there. And it will be MC going up against MVP. MVP takes it.
MVP advances to the championship. You agree with that, Rob?
I had the same result in the first half of the bracket. I did have MVP advancing, although he was playing against Oz in his bracket's finals. Now, on the lower half, though, I had MC against Naniwa. MC advances, which means that I ended up with MC versus MVP, and I think that MC is going to pull out a little bit of a surprise. I think that he can beat MVP here, meaning that MC is going to be the one advancing to the grand finals.
All right, so Rob's calling MC. JP, you got MVP advancing to the championship match. Guys, now it's your turn to fill out the brackets. Make sure to check out JP's thread over on teamliquid.net. Tell us who you think is going to win it all. And, of course, make sure to tune in this Friday. Every single match of the entire tournament will be broadcast. We have an amazing lineup of casters: Taste Toastus, DJ Wheat, JP, Rob Simpson, Tumba, Adabisi, and Robin will be bringing you all the action. That starts this Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time over on MajorLeagueGaming.com. For Rob Simpson and JP McDaniel, I'm Chris Puckett. We'll see you this Friday.